Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a self-employed agent here in Ireland or in the US, or what the differences are between the two countries? I get asked all the time, how do I become an agent here in Ireland? And I think I get asked the question a huge amount because people see all these YouTube videos as well as these Netflix shows that really kind of hype up the life of real estate agents. And I feel that a lot of them are overhyped and the reality is not quite what they seem on a Netflix show. One of those agents is Ryan Serhant. For people who follow Ryan Serhant, you will probably have been bombarded with posts over the last few days from YouTube and Instagram in regards to him setting up a new brokerage. For those of you who don't know who Ryan Serhant is, well, he's one of the main agents on $1 Million Listing New York. He also has over 1.5 million followers on YouTube and 1.5 million followers on Instagram. He's now claiming that he is one of the most followed agents in the world with these followers both on Instagram and YouTube. And perhaps he's right with over 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube and the same again on Instagram. Perhaps he's right. I can't think of anyone else who has more followers on either platform. He's planning to use these followers or this influence that he has to build a new brokerage in New York City. So why am I actually talking about Ryan today? Well, realistically, I want to use Ryan as an example of how agents differ here in Ireland and how they differ in the US. And also I think it's a good time to kind of look into the brokerage stroke agency kind of roles in the US and see how they differ here in Ireland. So a little bit of background on Ryan. So Ryan actually is a real estate agent in New York. He has been for the last 12 years. He's had huge success and he had a breakthrough in regards to him being one of the main agents on $1 Million Listings New York. But since then he's gone from strength to strength and he's had huge success. But a lot of people who are seeing Ryan's posts over the last few days will be wondering why is he announcing that he's setting up a new brokerage? Because most people out there who don't understand the system will actually probably think that Ryan had his own company to begin with. And he did. He had his own estate agency. He had his own agency. But he was working under a brokerage. And I think that brokerage might have been Nest Seekers. So he owned his own estate agency and he had his own team. I think it was the Team Serhant, and he had lots of other different brands as well associated with that. But he was effectively an estate agent running his own team under a brokerage. He was a self-employed agent and he had his own company, but he was contributing some of his fees back to a brokerage. This is one of the main differences between the Irish market and the US market, is this whole idea of brokerages for real estate agents. In the US, most estate agents are self-employed and they work under a brokerage. Generally speaking, the brokerage will provide details from a legal point of view, and also they'll provide some tech, and they even might provide an office. Some brokerages do actually provide some marketing for agents as well. Generally speaking, agents split the fee 50-50 with brokers. Sometimes those fees can be as high as 60-40, and in some cases, if it's a really strong agent and a brokerage is looking to attract that agent in, they can negotiate better fee terms. As I do get asked this question a lot about how to become a real estate agent here in Ireland, I have created a video on that already and I will put a link in below. But generally speaking, the rule of thumb is it takes a minimum of 2 years to get your license before you can be a licensed agent here in Ireland. Once you are licensed, you can work for any of the major companies or you can set up on your own. In the US, it can take a matter of weeks to actually get your license. So you can get your license very quickly. It differs from state to state, but in New York, what you're required to do is get sponsored by a brokerage, do 72 hours of training followed by a 2-hour test, and then you're licensed and you can go work for any brokerage you want to. But if you want to become a broker, what you need to do is 120 hours of training. You also have to have worked in the real estate industry or equivalent for at least 2 to 3 years, and generally speaking you may also need a degree, but it depends on state to state. Therefore, the brokerage license is far more aligned with what we'd call a real estate license here in Ireland. A broker in the US can actually act as an agent if they wish, but an agent cannot act in the US as a broker. I hope this kind of explains why Ryan Serhant has moving from an agency based business to a brokerage based business, as it gives Ryan more control over his actual overall business and his brand as well. Ryan's new business, Serhant, actually has is a multifunctional business. It covers off stuff like marketing, video production. They're also talking about tech development, as well as obviously agency and brokerage. I'm also assuming that his business plan will include a huge amount of training his own agents and also training agents internationally, as well as US agents as well. It is probably likely that Ryan is going to pump a huge amount into marketing, so therefore I can imagine he will be looking for quite a large percentage of the split between agents and brokerage. As I said, the norm is about 50%, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan is looking for 60% or more. So I had a quick look at Ryan Serhant's new office in New York. It's in Tribeca. It's a building, it's a 5-story brownstone with rooftop pavilion. In his own kind of marketing PR videos that he put out over the last few weeks, people will probably have seen it. You'll have seen that it's an office space. Different floors are devoted to different things, from client entertainment to video production, marketing, tech development. But actually, when I found the property online, it actually was sold in 2016. It was sold for 7.7 million US dollars. At that time, it was actually a 3/4-bed house. So what has happened here is the house has been converted into an office space, and now it's a very cool, funky office space. So I'm not sure if Ryan actually owns this building or if he's renting it out. If he is renting it out, probably in the region of about $20,000 per month to rent a building like that. Obviously, Ryan is investing a huge amount into tech as well and to marketing as well. So you can see that there's a huge capital outlay to set up a brokerage within the US. And that's usually different compared to an agent setting up in the US, because generally speaking, when an agent sets up in the US, a huge amount of their actual setup costs are actually borne by the brokerage, because they're taking on a percentage of the fees as well. In Ireland, when you actually get licensed, if you wish, you can set up your own agency or become a self-employed agent. If you do go down that route, generally speaking, your license fee per annum will be €1,200. You'll also need insurance as well, so that will cost roughly between $2 to $4 to even $5 depending on what you're kind of doing or what market you're going into. So generally speaking, you'll need at least $5 before you even start thinking about office space, marketing, subscriptions that you'll have to your platforms. So all in, what you'd kind of probably need to set up your own agency, a small enough agency, is anywhere between 10 to 20 grand. But that's not the biggest hurdle new agents or new self-employed agents actually face here in Ireland. The biggest hurdle is actually the length of time sales transactions actually take. Generally speaking, you could be anywhere between 9 to, or even if you're lucky, 6 months between actually getting instructed and actually closing a sale, just mainly because of the legal process. But when you bear that in mind, or you kind of consider that as a self-employed agent, if you get instructed to sell a property, you agree everything, you do all the marketing, you have it up online within a week or two, another few weeks of marketing, it goes sale agreed. Generally speaking, you will have done most of your work in a kind of a 2-month period. But it could be another 4 months or 5 months before that transaction actually completes and you get paid. So you could have done the work 6-7 months beforehand before you actually get paid. So that's a huge barrier for any new agent, because they're going to have to fund their lifestyle themselves, generally speaking, before they start to get paid, and their fees may not come in till 5, 6, 7 months after they've started. And that, I think, is one of the biggest barriers that these kind of American-based kind of brokerage or stroke tech companies that are coming in here to Ireland to help self-employed agents actually face. It's this time lag that they'll actually face in regards to when they get paid after they've gone sale agreed. So that is one of the biggest barriers that self-employed agents here in Ireland face, and also barriers for US companies coming in here trying to adapt that self-employed model here in Ireland as well, because agents realistically need to fund themselves for a number of months before they get paid. That is in direct contrast to US, because basically in the US, transactions can be completed within 30 days. So you could get instructed on a property and have it sold and completed within 30 days. So therefore, new agents could technically get paid within their first month or second month of being in business. And that has a huge difference in terms of how you approach the self-employed model. Serhant's new brokerage claims to be a game changer for the industry. I'm not quite sure I buy into that, because there is a lot of agencies out there, particularly in the US, that are adopting or have adopted similar models, and some of them have been around for a number of years. He may be bringing kind of more flashier marketing to it, but ultimately I don't think it's a massive game changer to the industry. But I am quite keen to see how this all plays out and how he may influence other markets around the world as well. As I mentioned before, the new Serhant's office space is a 5-story brownstone, and they have floors devoted to different elements of the business, from video production, marketing, also training and tech development as well, and client entertainment. All of this is possible in the US, and particularly in New York, because sales fees are quite high, particularly when a brokerage can collect on both sides of a sale in terms of the sales agent and the buyer's agent, and they can collect a percentage of both. Generally speaking, they have more funds to play with to actually invest and reinvest into the business. But all of this got me thinking. It got me thinking, would such a brokerage, or would such a similar brokerage work here in Ireland? Would the concept work? Well, I actually think the concept would struggle here in Ireland, mainly based on the fees that are collected by agents at this current point in time. I think collecting a fee of 1% or 1.5% on a property sale just wouldn't be enough to make such a business model work. But I would love to see a house of tech people, marketers, agents all come together and try and make something like this actually work. But I do think with the fee structures that are there in place at the moment, it will be very difficult to pay everyone a reasonable salary to make it actually work. But perhaps it could work if a solicitor and agent came together and formed their own brand, where the solicitor effectively acts as the broker, the agent acts as an agent, and you try to tie in a little bit of a fee, an extra fee for the buyer side as well. I think this is a very interesting space to look into in more detail. It will be interesting, and I'm quite curious to see how Serhant's kind of approach to the brokerage side of the business will actually influence the US market and also the global market as well. I hope you learned a little bit more about US brokerages and agencies, as well as the Irish agencies. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.